Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor, knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is. Reached 100 million people, I tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Okay, that's too high. See, I needed to fix my camera. Hold on. And I came down here late, so y'all are gonna have to give me some patience. Oh, you little bastard. Okay. I can't seem to get this damn camera right. Let's try this. Okay, I seem to be in frame. Is that in frame? And look, my notifications are still on. Okay, well, this is, when I have my thing on, this frames me nicely. All right, here we go. Okay, everyone. And I did not intend upon doing this today, but I'm doing it for a specific reason. But I didn't have time to get down here to prepare because I just got done with a Clubhouse. And I still got some things on a disc here, but I'm going to let the audience build a few minutes. But somebody reminded me of a quote. So here we go. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party, with a capital P, comrade, is always right. Is this the clown world we live in? I think it is. I'm watching history be rewritten before me. And that's one reason why I decided to do this today. And because Mr. Longstreth decided to harangue me, insinuating that I didn't whistleblow a damn thing, because they would like to forget that. So I won't let them forget that. So let's go over, folks, exactly what I did whistleblow today, and let's talk about the rewriting of history. because I'm watching it happen, and I'm going to nip that shit in the bud. Even by people who know better. Like, people who rewrite history aren't always doing it on purpose. They might not see the bigger picture. They hear part of a narrative, and then they propagate it like a mind virus. Because, for instance, Steve Dosbach, somebody I respect, is actually being part of rewriting history, and I don't even think he realizes it. But before we get there, as usual, my magical Patreon. If you support the work that I do, and you like this inside LP baseball stuff, which I intend upon doing a lot more, hopefully most of it will not be quite this dramatic, but it'll be the insider stuff that you probably will not get anywhere else, please consider becoming a patron. And it seems to annoy so many people that I might actually make money on my channel. It's clown world. Libertarians are upset at capitalism. So, make all the right people upset. Below. And with that, we will continue. And I've got my widget up on the screen. Yes, I do. Oh, didn't mean to. And I've still got a terrible cold. So, if I cough, that is why. So what exactly did I whistleblow? That is such an interesting question, isn't it? So let's go over the time frame again, shall we? We had an LNC meeting the first weekend in June. And I've learned some more facts, by the way. Or alleged facts. Hearing things from multiple credible sources. So we had an LNC meeting the first weekend of June. And it was peaceful. Oh my God, you might remember, I did a video about the meeting. And what was the title of my video? It was a hug fest. That's how well everything went. Who would have known things would go to shit and JBH would end up resigning within a few weeks? So, the meeting went well. New Hampshire came up. People bitching about their tweets. Not a word about any of this strife that JBH admits he knew was going on. And he admits that he knew a split might be coming and never bothered to tell any of the officers or any of the LNC. And I've since learned on good authority that from multiple credible sources, they could be wrong, that JBH was so distraught over the successes of the Mises Caucus that he was planning on resigning the party already. But something stayed his hand. What could that be? Could it be this outside, out-of-state person who came up with this plan for New Hampshire? And just like Gilletta Jarvis, who wanted to resign, this person said, there's another way. Did somebody whisper in JBH's ear, there's another way? Because I've heard now 3 or 4 credible sources that JBH was planning on resigning at that LNC meeting, but he changed his mind. Occam's razor leads me to believe he changed his mind because he knew what was coming in New Hampshire and he wanted to see if that succeeded. That Monday, he provided that letter. So the Monday immediately after this LNC meeting, where he allegedly was going to resign, he provided that letter to Gilletta Jarvis. That really strangely worded letter. The party of which you are chair. Interesting. I don't think any of those routine letters are worded quite that weirdly. And then we find out that, and he tells us this is a routine letter that I provide to chairs when they ask for them. It's quite innocent. Okay. But we find out that Gilletta never asked JBH for that letter. That out-of-state third party did. And he just provided it to her, but at the request of someone else. So it wasn't such a routine letter, was it? These are all things that I uncovered, folks, that no one on the LNC is talking about. No one on the LNC is talking about the fact that Gilletta never asked for that letter. So he said to us that he'd been in conversations with Gilletta frequently over the previous 2 months over the growing unrest in New Hampshire. Gilletta told me she hadn't spoken to him in over a month and a half. And the last time she tried to reach out to him was May 21st and left a message, and he never returned her call. That she was dealing with this third party who told her that JBH was on board, knew what was going on, and that this letter was basically a transfer of affiliation from the old group to the new group. See, so many facts have flown about that I think the LNC just hopes I'm going to forget them, or that the investigation committee will overlook them. But the fact is, these were uncovered very close to the events. So, that coming up the week after the LNC meeting, I was in Florida, and it was Saturday. And this is when all hell broke loose, when Gilletta posted that letter on the New Hampshire site and cited JBH's letter as her warrant for saying she was the captain now of a new Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And I did something that the conspirators did not expect me to do. I got everyone on Zoom calls that night and asked them what the hell happened the day it happened. And everyone's jumping my ass for doing that. Meanwhile, anyone will tell you the sooner you can get witness statements. And anyone can watch those videos. I did not prejudice their statements. I did not put any words in their mouth. What everyone's upset about is that but for those interviews, things would have turned out a whole lot differently. And I will proceed to explain why. Shit just started blowing up the minute I had their statements, and particularly Gilletta saying JBH knew what was going on and that this letter was a transfer of affiliation. Now, JBH could have, when all this came to light, repudiated that understanding. Notice he never did. Notice how he danced around that question. He never answered that. He just went on and on about how these are routine letters. But he never would answer the question, do you condone what Gilletta used it for? Just like Dave Smith said, if he wrote some routine letter and someone then turned around and used it to steal property from other people, you'd immediately go, whoa, that was not the purpose of that letter. But JBH still to this day has not repudiated that. And in his resignation letter, we see why. Because he thought it was perfectly justified for Gilletta to do what she did. He put words in her mouth. All this weird talk about constructive resignation of the other board members. Remember, that was JBH's position. He advocated that the old board didn't even exist anymore, that they constructively resigned. Gilletta never said that. She thought there were two boards. But JBH's position from the beginning was that there was just one Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, and it was the one with the new bylaws and the new board chaired by Gilletta Jarvis. This all keeps getting swept under the rug. There is not a question here. And that, my friend, is actual corruption. The LNC saying there's no evidence of corruption. Really? Well, then I question your wisdom to be on the LNC. If you don't see corruption when it's hitting you in the face. If there's nothing to be proven there, JBH admitted it. So, when I had gotten to find out that Gilletta, in fact, did not ask him for that letter as he represented to us, and I asked him directly, who asked you for that letter? He threatened to sue me. Not a word from the rest of the LNC. Don't you think it's kind of corrupt for the LNC chair to threaten to sue a fellow officer for asking a question like that? Directly relevant? Nobody said a word. Decorum my ass. No one, not a peep. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't turn my notifications off. You're just going to have to live with them. And Clubhouse is going to be going crazy because people are following me left and right. Nobody said a word. So he threatens to sue me. And then what does he do? I think within a half an hour, he resigns. And we're going to go through his resignation letter because it's going to tie all the pieces together in a nice, neat bow. So don't tell me there's no evidence of corruption. And don't tell me I didn't whistleblow anything. Because I'm going to put all these pieces together and show you how history is being rewritten after we go through his letter. But remember, comrades, remember, nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Or so the LNC would like you to believe, and would like you to believe that I'm not a whistleblower. And that I wasn't retaliated against. We'll get into that timing in a minute. Because I've learned some new things, comrades. But let's pull up JBH's letter, shall we? His resignation letter. One second. I think I have it on a hard drive. Yep, here we go. Okay. And I'm going to need to pull it up where I can see it better. So give me one moment. Because I see it on a little screen. And I need to pull it up big. I don't know how many of you actually read this. Okay. So you could see at 2:20 on January 18th. This is all at the same time that Richard is messing with my suspension right after I caused JBH to resign. Me and Joshua. Joshua also asked him a very pointed question. He asked him for copies of all of his emails. And I bet you all those emails have since been deleted, by the way. I don't think the investigation committee is going to find a damn thing. So, members of the Libertarian National Committee, you can see it's at 2:20, where it says resignation. Yet, he resigned, but he started the ballot for my suspension 13 minutes after his resignation. No retaliation, you say? It's perfectly normal for someone to resign and then start ballots and vote on the ballots, isn't it, comrades? Nothing to see here. No retaliation against a whistleblower to see here. Your eyes are deceiving you. Are you going to believe your lying eyes or what I'm telling you? So let's take a look at this letter. I'm not going to go through it all. The first, he's giving his libertarian history. But let's start with the last sentence of the second paragraph. And the back corner of my mind for some time, and this does leave credence to the fact that he was already thinking of resigning, has been an unease that this culture was going or gone, and I regret that I've now come to realize it is gone from this committee and from the loudest and most powerful voices in our party. And he's talking about the desire to win elections, which is not gone, but okay, whatever makes you sleep at night. Right here, the lies. What lies? The lies you told? And threats. I don't know anything about threats. We asked him for proof of them, and I've never heard them. If anyone threatened JBH, you are a scumbag. Leveled at myself and many good libertarians and friends. Lies about my actions with regards to New Hampshire. You never disavowed it. You wouldn't answer the questions. And threats against any libertarian who tries to defend the party. I'm trying to defend the party. But see, to him, it was an us versus them. He really thought he was in a battle for his life with Nazis. You'll do almost anything if you think you're battling Nazis. Have made clear to me that we are now firmly set down a path I cannot continue to support. You mean one in which you can't overthrow legitimately elected boards of directors because you don't like them? At its root, the biggest problem I see in the Libertarian Party at nearly all levels is that toxic people are tolerated. You mean like the fakertarians who just slander libertarians all day, calling them racists and bigots and Nazis? You tolerated them quite well. One or two rotten apples spoil the bunch. Toxic people exhaust or drive out good people. Yeah, a lot of really good people have been driven out by the wokeitarians. Okay, just continue and complain. All right. I'm now convinced that many in this party want that toxicity. Of course, you have to make yourself out to be the victim and everyone else just to be these horrible, terrible people. Okay, so let's start here where the party chair decides to slander a whole segment of the party when he promised he was going to be the great unifier. That toxic culture has recently been harnessed in the surface and the service of a grouping, he means the Mises Caucus, with a declared goal of taking over the party. Funny, you are the one who orchestrated an actual takeover. And making it as repulsive as possible to everyone except themselves. That is just absolute disgusting slander. And then he goes about, oh, and here's funny, where, now remember, was I complaining about due process at this point? I don't know if I was, but in here he's calling me a liar if I was. I have to look at when I first raised the complaint about due process. I think it was immediately. So I do think by this point. So he's like, stage one is a few respectable people without ideas. Stage two is an organized whatever. Stage three, one self-imposed crisis to the next. No, this is a crisis imposed by you. And four is the purges. I haven't seen Mises Caucus doing purges, but I saw you helping with the purge of New Hampshire. And all previously asserted concerns about due process and fair play thrown out the window. Fair play is when delegates elect their board and the LNC chair doesn't subvert it. And then he goes on saying everybody supports him. But he goes, governance of our party, and here's where it gets really elitist. Governance of our party is not decided democratically by all our members or by those who put in the most work electing libertarians. A lot of people work at electing libertarians, Joe, other than you and your bunch. But instead, those who are the most organized to turn out bodies at state and national conventions. Wait, that is the democratic elections. You just don't like who showed up. National Committee's actions and inactions, what inactions, are now driven by fear of this well-organized group. I never feared them. You feared them? Why? Because you sat on your ass during COVID and said nothing? This is just so slanderous. Okay, going to the next page. And good people will be driven out all by all of us. Okay. I will not chair a party that knowingly and has now affirmatively chosen to stay affiliated. Good word right there. Pay attention. With the toxic garbage that is being spewed by the New Hampshire party. He just admits right there that his intent was to disaffiliate that group by subterfuge. So he resigns. And he says it's effective upon declaration of the results of the pending email ballot on disaffiliation. I have to look when I declared those results, because that might be why he's justifying still starting ballots and voting. So then he just goes on. So it's basically just a smear in which he admits that his resignation is because we kept our affiliation with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, that it was his desire to see them disaffiliated. And all of that lends credence to the fact that he was actively aiding in that by providing that letter, that he knew how Gilletta Jarvis was going to use it. Never denied it. So, Richard, that's what I whistleblew, Richard. No one else in the National Party had been talking about this. Well, let me back up, because Joshua certainly talked about it. So let me retract that. Only a few of us, but I was the only one who was doing it pound, 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 because I happened to have the time. It wasn't that I was better than Joshua or anything like that. He had a family to take care of. I had just recently quit my job and had a lot of time, and they didn't count on that. But if I had not gotten those interviews that night, the old board, the legitimate board of the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, would be on its ass today. You want to know how I know that? And this is where history is being rewritten. This was already starting. It's institutional inertia. When this first happened, from people who didn't know the involvement of the chair, and they wouldn't have known the involvement of the chair but for me uncovering it, they said this is an internal New Hampshire matter. We need to let them handle it, without knowing that it was the chair who instigated it. This plot was actually quite brilliant. The chair provided the letter, caused this alleged internal turmoil, and if we never found out he was behind it, everyone would have just said, let them handle it. And possession is 9/10 of the law. They had the keys to the CRM. They had the keys to the website. And after about 2 weeks, libertarians would have gotten tired of it and would have been like, oh, well, what can we do? And just through inaction, the legitimate board would have been gone. So when people like Steve Dosbeck say there's no way in hell the Libertarian Party, the National Libertarian Party, would have disaffiliated New Hampshire, he's missing the point. They wouldn't have had to. It would have passively happened because everyone would have said, just let New Hampshire handle it. And guess what? JBH had already handed it to his board and disenfranchised the legitimate board. They would have just been frozen out. That was the plan, and it was quite brilliant. It had one flaw. Me. So, Mr. Longstreth, that is what I whistleblew. And you know it. And everyone on the LNC knows it too. And a shame on all of you who claim there's no evidence of corruption. You're blind or corrupt yourselves if you don't see it. Give me that shit. Now, for the retaliation against a whistleblower, I think that's also quite obvious. I want to look at, though, when I declared the results of that ballot. Because even so, it's highly unethical to resign and then start a ballot and vote on it against your political rival. Like, anyone who thought that was okay, what's wrong with you? You resign and then try to take your political rival out with you on the way, and you guys think that's proper and libertarian? Not you guys, my audience, but you know what I'm saying. Really? Really now? That's very interesting. But I want to look at when I declared that ballot over with. I know when the last vote came in. Let me see here. Oh, I voted no right after, because I was the last vote remaining. I voted no which then closes the ballot. Once I saw that the chair wanted to resign. And then immediately after my no vote, he starts the ballot to suspend me. And that's ethical? That's not retaliation? Of course it's retaliation. Now, Mr. Longstreth's complaining that he didn't collude. I can't prove that he did. I could just tell you it looks that way. He's best friends with the chair. Right when I'm causing the chair to resign, he starts a motion to suspend me. He claims that this motion was a long time in the works, that there is a long history of this alleged bad behavior. Really? Does that pass the smell test? Because remember, we just had an LNC meeting that weekend. If there was this long pattern of bad behavior, why wasn't something brought up at that meeting? But here's even more important. Remember, Richard moved to suspend me, not just from the LNC, but from all of my committee appointments, because I'm apparently that terrible. But what did he do that weekend, Richard? He voted for me to be on 2 committees. Well, he voted for me to chair a committee and to be placed on another committee. Now, one of these things is not like the other. Either you've wanted to suspend me for a long time prior to New Hampshire because I was so terrible, or you thought I was good enough to be put on committees. And in fact, we did have a conversation that weekend about some unresolved issues, Richard, and you made it clear they were personal issues between you and I. That you were upset with me for saying the LNC is where radicals go to die. And when you asked me who I meant, I said you and Susan. And you were very upset about that. And that's what we talked about that weekend, that you wanted us to kiss and make up over that. You wanted us to sit down and have a talk about why I felt that way. Never was it about some alleged pattern of bad behavior. The alleged bad behavior began after that LNC meeting. That's the only thing that makes sense of your vote to put such a terrible person as chair of the platform committee and on the voting process reform committee or the voting reform committee. Either you're a terrible LNC member who voted to put a monster on 2 committees in charge of one, or you're lying about this desire stretching way back. No, the desire was motivated by me doing those interviews and immediately going after your best friend, the chair. The documents don't lie, my friend. But what else did I find out? Well, Mr. Phillips defends Mr. Longstreth, saying, oh, he didn't decide to suspend you that day. He'd been talking about this for a little while. Well, it has to have been since the first LNC meeting. That LNC meeting. So that means right after I started making noise, they started talking about suspending me. And Phillips knew about it. And he said he called to warn me. Now, as I said in another thing, if you're going to warn me about something, be blunt, because I don't take hints. But apparently, the phone call he had with me 2 nights before was to warn me that I was being set up. So Phillips knew and felt guilty that I was being set up, and yet he still says he would have voted for it? He also voted for me for that committee and to chair the platform committee too. Such a terrible person though, aren't I? All of these allegations and decisions that they wanted to remove me happened after the LNC meeting of June 5th through 6th. And in that 2-week period of me exposing the chair. And you're going to tell me this is not retaliation against a whistleblower. I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, and neither did most of the members who say, what you did there, I see it. Because there's only 2 possibilities here, Richard. You either thought I was absolutely terrible and unqualified and unfit when you voted to make me chair of the platform committee and a member of a brand new committee, or this thought didn't enter your head until after. And neither of those two scenarios are very flattering to you. And I know what scenario it is. It's the latter. And you were very personally upset because I said the LNC is where radicals go to die. And you had a grudge to put on that point too. And you mentioned that I had been combative ever since the LNC decided to stay silent on COVID messaging. And you're damn right I was combative about that. Because my loyalty is not to the LNC or your feelings. It is to the members and more ultimately to liberty. But don't be trying to sell me this loaf of shit that I wasn't a whistleblower. New Hampshire knows about better. Or that suspension motion was not retaliation. It absolutely was. And you say, I can't say this. I can say it on my personal time, and this is my personal time. You can't stop me from believing what I believe. That's what I believe. And I believe I laid out good reason for believing it. And a lot of people agree with me. But you can't have it both ways. Either I was good enough for those committees you voted to put me on June 5th and 6th, or you knowingly voted to put a terrible person on committees. Why would you do that? But of course, the answer is none of this was an issue on June 5th and 6th. It didn't become an issue until I started going after your best friend, the chair of the party, who perpetrated or attempted to perpetrate the worst scandal this party has ever known. The National Party helping to orchestrate a takeover of a state affiliate actively because they saw Nazis under every bush. And this is the rotten fruit that Nick Sarwark started several years ago when he decided it was his job to start attacking other libertarians. Shame on you all. And the rest of the LNC's all aghast because I'm criticizing the LNC. And they go, what, is she not part of it? Yeah, I am part of the LNC, which is why I have to criticize. Because if I stay silent, I am condoning what we as a body did. I am part of this body. That's why I am repudiating it. Because I'll not have that stain on me. I am part of the LNC. And I am holding us to account. But to you guys, it's like disloyalty. You must circle the wagons. It's the establishment libertarians. I don't play that game. My fiduciary duty is to the party, not to the LNC. It's to the members, not to my fellow LNC members. So you may deny with your lips that I was a whistleblower or that there was retaliation against me, but you know in the heart that it's true. And any LNC member that does not have the backbone to say, yeah, there's actual proof of corruption is a coward that doesn't ever deserve to be in another leadership position again. Now let me go to comments. Okay. Hey, Julian. Oh, and I wanted to show something else that shows this was coordinated. You're going to tell me this happened and your best friend didn't know? Okay. Let me pull this up. Remember, this is what Mr. Bishop Henchman's spouse posted immediately after he started the ballot to suspend me. Look at this. Joe using his remaining powers to go over her head, starting the ballot to remove CAH as his last move as chair, cackling. We aren't scared of bigots and those who continually run cover for them. It obviously was retaliatory to henchmen. You can't deny it. He allowed this post, and he's sitting there with the shit-eating grin. You think that's proper? Now, did Richard not know? Maybe. But they're best friends. It certainly was retaliation against me by the outgoing chair. That is proven. So continuing. Oh, I don't know why the list has been quiet today. I'm staying away from the list. I participate when I need to, but I don't trust any of them. And I'm just going to do my job until the rest of my term. And if more shady shit comes out, I'll expose it. But I have a feeling they're just waiting to see who they get in his chair, and it's going to try to oust me again. Which is why I'm continuing to make these videos, because I'm laying my case. You're going to retaliate against a whistleblower? If you don't think I will not go out fighting every single step of the way, you've got another think coming. And thank you for the super chat. You guys, a lot of these videos don't get ads because I'm a bit spicy. So I do appreciate. Obviously not required, but I certainly do appreciate it. Yep, the moderates did screw the pooch on this one. But think about it, Kenny. If I hadn't done those interviews, they would have gotten away with it. Other LNC members were going, this seems weird. But I'm the one who actually uncovered the evidence. And it's just why all the wrath was on me. Now, as far as the investigation, I have zero confidence in it. 2 reasons. Well, let me just, more than 2. 1, as I said earlier, I'm sure JBH deleted any emails. We don't own the email server. It's a Gmail account. You just delete them and empty your box and they're gone. And I find out he still had access to his emails for about a week after he resigned. So, do I think they're going to find anything? No. And one person on that committee is someone who has a sworn vendetta against me because they're very upset about my support for the 2020 physical convention. You know, a lot of people lost their mind over that, and one member of the committee is one such person. So yeah, considering how central I am to this whole thing, putting someone on that committee that has an open grudge against me, really impartial, guys, perfect. You think I'm going to trust it? No. Yeah, it is. It's completely shady. And just an FYI, because so many conversations now on the LNC are on the private list, which I told you all would be abused to all fuck, because none of these conversations, I don't say none of them, 80% of these conversations shouldn't be private. But this LNC likes to operate under opacity. You should see the indecorum towards me. It's just fine when it's out of public view. And I'm just going through the things, most of the conversations amongst yourselves, which is awesome. I'm just, yeah. And Nick had said the party is who shows up until he doesn't like who shows up. That was the asterisk. Let me continue here. Yeah, and I am deeply disappointed in John Phillips in this. No backbone and no integrity in this situation. Call it as I see it. And he stabbed me in the back. Yeah, that cackling thing was quite precious, wasn't it? Do some typing and soft speaking. Right now, I'm too wound up to soft speak, but maybe I will start to do some libertarian ASMR. I always thought that would be funny. And yeah, the investigation committee is the LNC investigating itself, and they will find we did nothing wrong. And thank you, Carlin. Yes, this right here shows why transparency is important. And meanwhile, John Phillips is trying to get me to shut up. Because what he said is, basically, Ms. Harlos, decorum will also apply to your private statements and your continual accusations, which he calls unproven, of corruption. I heard the threat there. Did you? It shuts its mouth, or it gets the motion again. Now, have I nominated anyone to chair? No, and I'm not going to. Because right now, me nominating somebody would be the kiss of death to them. Because obviously, I'm not the most popular person on the LNC right now. So if there's somebody I support, the worst thing I could do is nominate them. The second worst thing I could do is let anyone know I support them. So I'm not telling anyone who I support. And I'm not nominating anyone. I will just vote and hope we get somebody who's not going to immediately say, oh, an email motion for suspension is just peachy, because you know that's what they want. No, those interview videos are still up. They're on a drive. So you can go watch them at any time. If you email me, I can send you the link. So I wanted to answer because Mr. Longstrath asked me last night, or was it this morning, just what did you whistleblow? Unreal. It's like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. You did not whistleblow anything. And the rewriting of history. Nothing would have happened. The old LPNH would have been fine. We never would have disaffiliated them. No, that's technically true, because it wouldn't have been necessary. It was a constructive disaffiliation. You just would have recognized the one with the keys. So I think that's it for questions or comments. I'm just going to give it a few minutes. I hope not to keep talking about this. But I have to tell you, I was incensed that anyone on the LNC would have the nerve to even try to claim to my face that I was not a whistleblower. Go pretend that to your sycophants. But don't try that to this face. Because I know what I did, and I know the price that I paid for it. I know that you guys tried to ruin my life over it. How dare you? Objectively awful. Correct, Matt. Him threatening to sue me when I asked him a question is a whistleblower right there. It's insane. So they can deny it, but I know the general party knows it. And you want to know what? Some people could say what I'm going to say now is some overinflated sense of my own worth. I don't have an overinflated sense of my own worth. I would hope anyone would have done what I did. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But I firmly believe that my actions saved this party from destroying itself. Because the minute the LNC can overturn a valid election through a stealth coup, this party is dead. And though some of my colleagues might not believe it because they have entirely different priorities, I fucking love this party. So I took a bullet for it. And I am proud of what I did. And I am ashamed that I don't have the backup on the LNC, except for Joshua Smith. There's others who have given me support here and there, but really the only warrior on my side has been Joshua Smith. Everyone else, the minute the target got painted on my back, they scattered. They scattered like cockroaches when the lights turned on. Even people I like. But they saw, uh-oh, she's going down. We're going to get out of the blast radius. You want to know what I do when I see a friend in need? I don't scurry out of the blast radius. I jump on top of them like a fucking Secret Service agent and protect them with my own body. Because I'm that kind of friend. Molman had to be chair. Molman is exempt from my criticisms. Molman was being an excellent chair. No, Steve Nicola did not come out vociferously for me. He was on my side. He would have voted no on the suspension motion. But you didn't see him taking any bullets for me. The only one who did was Joshua, and he was next to be targeted. I got chastised by Mr. Nicola for asking the question about how much Richard Longstreth's vendetta was going to cost the party. He didn't come to my defense. He voted no, and I'm grateful for that no. But that was my time of need. That's when I needed friends. And the true friend to me on the LNC was Joshua Smith. The rest voted well, and that's good. I'm grateful for that. But I know who I could bring into battle with me. I know who was the kind of friend I am. I battle like a beast for my friends. I'm the most loyal friend you'd ever have in your life. All right. I am going to retire for the night. I need to finish some LPCO minutes, but I thank you all for your attention, and I hope this is the last video I'm going to need to do on this subject for a while. I've got ballot access videos I want to do. I've got historical videos I want to do. Tomorrow during the day, I'm going to be going over that interview between Jordan Peterson and Michael Malice. There was some interesting points in there. So, yeah, look for that tomorrow. And I thank you all. Have an awesome, awesome night. Mi guapas de libertad.
Gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe and